Welcome back to the Property Finance Podcast. 3 episodes in a row. Almost building some sort of consistency here, I think. So today I want to talk about getting the right team in place. So this is something that comes up every single deal without fail. And any talk I ever give, any content I've ever put out has always been around sort of getting the right team in place, dealing with the right people, and just making sure that you are putting something together where not everything is reliant on you. So the first one, contractor, that is without a shadow of a doubt, when you're getting into development finance, refurbs, getting the right contractor and builder in place, without a shadow of a doubt, is the biggest thing that you want to do. So if you're doing medium refurbs, heavy refurbs, even just a light refurb, you want to make sure that you've got a builder in place who you trust, you know, you like, you've had for maybe some good reviews of. You can sort of match up what they've done previously, if they've done something of a similar scale and standard. Because the amount of feedback I get from people who have given money to builders, the builders run off, and then they've had to spend another 10 grand or whatever, getting another builder in, getting someone else to come and deal with work that's been done badly. I'd lose track, honestly. It happens so often. Off the back of that, I would say if you're getting into purchasing properties from deal sources, I have nothing against deal sources whatsoever. There are some really, really good deal sources. There are some really, really not good deal sources. But what I would say is the ones who are good will have a team in place that you can rely on, that you can trust, that you can deal with. They'll project manage everything for you. The bad ones will also have that, but you'll end up spending more money in the long run because you have to go and repair everything that they've done wrong in the process. So if you're going to go down the route of using a deal sourcer and their team, make sure you use a good one. Get reviews, see previous projects, deal with ones who you know what they're doing, because the amount of deal sources that come out of these 2 and 3 day courses, again, I've got nothing against courses. Everyone has to be educated somehow. But the amount of people who come out of the back of 2-3 day courses, think they can be a deal sourcer, get a team together, find a local builder, have no knowledge whatsoever of that local builder, and then start touting out their professional team to you, or their power team, as some people call it. The problem you have is that because they've come out the back of a 2-3 day course, they haven't had that continued mentorship, they haven't had that continued education. You end up in a situation where they don't know what a good builder necessarily looks like, and you end up in a situation where they're project managing someone who they don't know, who they don't have experience with, and it just ends up in a project that just doesn't work, or you've got to go and fix God knows how many other problems. So use a really good deal sourcer if you can find one, and if you want to rely on their team, fine, just do your homework. So finding a good contractor is without a shadow of a doubt one of the first team members that you need to find, and make sure that they are spot on. Make sure that they are liquid, because the last thing you want is a contractor who isn't liquid, because if cash flow becomes a problem, how are they going to cash flow themselves out of it? Are they going to end up going bankrupt halfway through a development? Are they going to end up going bust halfway through a refurb? Are you going to end up picking up the pieces and having to get a more expensive contractor to pick those pieces up? So they're not unfair questions to be asking of a contractor by any stretch. So I think that they definitely need to be top of your list is, are you liquid? Are you okay? How's business trading? Are you going to be okay to get through this project? And most of them will be fairly open with you. Some obviously are going to be quite cagey, but it's well worth asking that and doing your homework on them and making sure that they're going to be okay to see it through. So contractor, first member of the team without a shadow of a doubt. The second one is a slightly, I guess, off on a tangent one, but an accountant. And many of you will go, well, why is accountant second on the list? The accountant isn't the be all and end all of this team. They are, without a shadow of doubt. Your accountant has to be almost top of that list. If it wasn't for the fact that the contractor is there for 12, 18 months cash flowing your entire project, I probably would have put accountant top of the list. You need a good accountant. There are some pretty crap ones out there, to put it nicely. There are some out there who just have no idea what they're doing when it comes to property stuff. So get a good accountant, get someone who's got that knowledge, who deals with lots of other property developers, investors, who understand your vision, your journey, where you're going, what you're trying to achieve. Because without that understanding, they're not going to know how to structure you best for finance. They're not going to know how to structure you best for onward plans. You're going to end up doing one development and then paying all of it out on tax. You're going to end up in all kinds of trouble. So get a really, really good accountant who understands what you're doing moving forward. And kind of, I'm not really going to talk about brokers within this professional team because obviously I'm a broker touting this, so I would hope you wouldn't need another broker. But get your broker and your accountant to work together as well, because we've got a couple of deals at the moment where we've kind of got involved and actually dealt with the accountant on the client's behalf. Because what we do is we sit and we know the vision, we know the journey, we know what's financeable, we know what's not financeable, we know which sort of company structures, etc., are going to be best. So from that perspective, we can sit with the accountant and say, okay, well, these guys, they want to hold property. So we think maybe we want to be setting up SPVs for those, because if we put them in a group structure, they're maybe not going to be the best setup for financing. These guys want to sell everything. We think a group structure might be best, because actually if they're selling everything, we don't have to worry about whether that group structure is financeable or not, because they're going to be selling everything, and development finance pretty much will finance in any company structure, whereas buy-to-lets and mortgages tend to worry a bit more about company structure. But we can have those conversations. So get your accountant and your broker working together. Get your broker and your contractor working together as well, because if you've got a development finance broker who understands development finance, who's boots on the ground like I have been for probably the last 12, 18 months, I'm going to be able to sit down with that contractor and say, right, look, this is what we need. This is why we need a build cost breakdown. This is why we need a build cost schedule. This is why we need you to tell us when you want paying, because otherwise you're not going to get paid. And I can kind of put that across in a way that maybe you wouldn't be able to. So being able to have those discussions is always beneficial. So contractor, accountant, lawyer's the third one. Get a good lawyer. Every single episode since we've come back, I've spoken about the importance of getting a good lawyer in place. So get a lawyer that understands development finance, bridging finance, whatever. If you want to hear more in depth, listen to the previous episodes where I've ranted about solicitors and lawyers no end. They're kind of your three key ones straight off the bat. The fourth one that I kind of want to cover briefly is a mentor. So a lot of people have very negative views of sort of property education, etc. I personally have had mentors, have a mentor who I've sort of used more for the business side than the property side, but it's still good to have that person to sort of hash things out with, to bounce things off. And again, there are lots of good mentors out there. There are some very bad mentors. So you want to get a mentor who will sit and spend that time with you on a monthly basis, maybe even more than that. I think one phone call a month it doesn't work when you're in property. Things move so fast. If you have to sit and wait for a monthly meeting or a monthly phone call, it just doesn't work, I don't think, personally. I think you need to be on something where there's at least a weekly touch point, because things move so quickly and develop so quickly and evolve so quickly that if you're every single month, I think you're going to struggle to be able to have that touch point regularly enough to be happy. So I think find a mentor who's happy to kind of sit with you once a week minimum, and someone who's been there, done it, who can evidence that they've been there and done it, because the amount of mentors who are out there on property development who don't actually do deals anymore, or who haven't done deals to begin with is quite scary. It does worry me, and I'm more than happy to sit on phone calls with people and talk about who I think good mentors are and potentially who I don't think are good mentors. But I think they're key, getting a good one, because their professional team as well then becomes available to you, and it's worth having them on board as well. The last one, project management. So you're going to want a project manager. Now that may come as part of the contractor package. It may be that you decide to bring someone in external. There are also training courses out there on project management. I don't need to tell you who to go to. Most of you will have seen it on social media. So there are project management courses out there that are well worth attending, and I think spending some time on, because learning the do's and don'ts of project management can be massive, can save you huge amounts of money, and also understanding like the health and safety side of things and your responsibility as, if you want to be the project manager, your responsibility as a project manager or developer. And then also on the back of that as well, I mean, there's no reason why you can't become the contractor as well as you move forward as well. But I would say for your first couple of deals, contractor, accountant, lawyer, project manager, they are the four main ones that you want to get nailed down as quickly as possible. I don't think you should be taking any of those roles on yourself for the first few deals. Definitely get some externals. In terms of externals as well, well worth getting a good QS on board. I have a couple of QSs that I would really, really, really recommend. More than happy to share those. And obviously with that brings the ability to kind of get them to do a lot of the other jobs as well. So they, as well as obviously we mentioned about mentors, their professional team being available, your broker's got a professional team that's available, your QS can help you build that professional team. There are people around you who can do a lot of this work for you. But the QS especially is good because they can do a lot of the tendering process. So where I said about finding a contractor and finding out if they're reliable, trustworthy, talking to them and finding out if they're liquid enough, whether they're able to deliver the project, the QS can take a lot of that work off you because they can do the tendering process, they can do the vetting of contractors. So that takes a lot of the strain off you. And also the QS can be there to double check numbers because as a first-time developer or a first-time property investor, what you don't want is to be scammed or for builders to be taking the mickey out of you. You want a QS who can sit there and go, I think you're taking the piss with this. I think it's going to be £180 a square foot as opposed to £220 a square foot because I think you've overinflated this, you've done this, you've done that. So being able to have that person who can sit there and sense check everything is well worth having. So that's just a very whistle-stop tour of the team that you want to have in place. We've covered this before on a lot of different episodes, but I think having one dedicated episode to kind of give you a quick, every time you do a project, pick this episode up, have a little listen, work out if you've got that team in place. And I think hopefully this will help for that first few, just making sure that you've got those right people around you. But thank you very much for listening and watching. I will catch you on the next one.